What was your school's incident? The biggest incident was when my school decided to get rid of block scheduling. It was basically taking 4 classes for the first part of the year and then 4 different classes at the second part, so a total of 8 classes per school year. When the school district decided to get rid of block scheduling and go to traditional 6 classes a day all year, the students protested. This text went around to almost every student in the school, and almost the entire student body gathered in the middle of the school for a peaceful protest. It ended up us watching kids running hysterically from the cops who were fully suited up in riot gear and kids getting tased. It was definitely an event. 2 guys got in a fight over a girl ex-girl. One stabbed the other. He died. I went to a private Catholic college prep high school in Florida. Freshman year, my elderly, male principal was arrested for soliciting sex to an undercover male officer. Sophomore year, we went into lockdown as police raided our tiny school. Computer teacher and computers left with the police, and he was charged with over 100 counts of child pornography. Junior year, our male PE coach was caught during mass having sex with a sophomore girl. I didn't attend for my senior year. A teacher at my middle school was asked to retire early a few years ago. This happened in my sophomore year of high school, so I wasn't there to see it happen. But apparently some kid walked into her class and shouted, "What bullshit are we learning today?" And she backhanded him right across his face. 4 kids stole a van, lined it up with the main entrance, and put a brick on the accelerator. The ensuing fire kept us out of school for a few days. They were caught after tweeting about doing it. Back in 92 or 93, when I was in high school, we had some kids involved in suicide pacts. Tragic, and 2 teens died before it got stopped. My high school had its name, Newport, spelled in big letters in front of the school. Our rival school came and rearranged it to wet porn, and it went unnoticed for quite a while. This was quite a while ago, but the legend of wet porn stands. Kids stole a bust of the guy who donated the new gym to our school. They would take pictures of him around the world with obviously fake scenic backgrounds from Hawaii and Mount Rushmore, and would all say, "Wish you were here," but then the school threatened to involve the FBI over the morning announcements, and the kids returned the bust the next day in the principal's parking spot. Someone decided to let off a canister of pepper spray. Me and a group of friends discovered it had been set off in a stairway where we used to hang at break time, because we were choking and coughing non-stop. Alerted staff, but it wasn't until lunchtime when we came back from the gym that there was police, ambulances and helicopters all over the school. They didn't know what the gas was, and suddenly everyone needed to be seen by a doctor and was kept inside the classrooms. Parents were turning up and creating a mob outside. 2 dads got into a fight near the police helicopter that had landed in our field and got arrested. News crews turned up and everything. And it's spelling. For several months running, some kid would piss on the radiators a couple times a week. It was horrid. Someone dressed up like a ninja and stabbed a kid with a machete in the woods behind the high school. This was after I graduated, so I don't know much more than these bare details. An English teacher had a year-long affair with an 11th grade girl. He was transferred to a junior high while we were in grade 12. And their relationship continued. They would prance around the halls after hours at the junior high, which was caught on camera, and how he was busted. Not so smart. Apparently, she was living in an apartment at the time due to rough home life. And her boyfriend would come by. They'd have sex. He'd leave. Then the teacher would come over with groceries for her. They'd have sex. And the cycle continued for months. Unbeknownst to the BF. He was arrested the year after high school. Of course, his home life with his wife and 2 kids was ruined. I learned all of this about 4 years after high school when I ran into the former BF at a bar and he filled me in about everything. Pretty crazy. This kid I went to middle school with was the first juvenile in my state to be tried as an adult at age 12. He murdered his friend's stepdad. This kid my junior year poked the head of his dick out of his pants during the football pictures. No one noticed till the yearbooks came out and he was almost charged as a sex offender. Made national news. Girl in year 11, 15 to 16 years old, got pregnant by her boyfriend that was 18. He then gets mad at her for going out with other boys or something, then strangles her with a scarf and leaves her for dead. Neither the girl or the baby survived after being in hospital for a while. Made national news and everything. There was a teacher who had left my school and went to work at another school the year after I was in their class. The teacher performed a science experiment that went horribly wrong without the proper safety procedures and ended up setting a student on fire. We had someone a couple of years above me who was murdered. That was a pretty horrible day after that. We were all taken into assemblies and told about what happened and told to speak to the staff if we needed anyone to talk to. There was also counselors walking around the school for a couple of weeks in case anyone needed them. They actually handled the situation really well, if I'm honest. There was a lot of fundraising events in the guy's name after the event, in particular a students v teachers football match where his family were invited as guests. My school's music teacher gambled away thousands of dollars that the students had raised to help them attend competitions. Now they can't have nice things. That show True Life on MTV? First episode ever was about heroin addiction, filmed at my high school. Kid brought a gun to school in middle school. School went into lockdown while the kid was going through the halls banging on doors. Planned on shooting people but brought the wrong bullets for his gun. Ran outside and got tackled by police. Now he works at McDonald's and does tattoos from a kid. Edit kid was adopted from Russia. His actual plan was to go to Russia after school to kill his real parents. Only someone bullied him during the day, causing him to grab the gun from his locker and start wreaking havoc. I feel like there were many incidents at my school that were a big deal in hindsight but were treated nonchalantly. For example, we had a student who told everyone these elaborate stories about how she was kidnapped one time. Everyone made fun of her for lying and trying to get attention. She was bullied pretty badly. Turns out, she really was kidnapped. I went to a military boarding school. A kid at A who got into UCLA, with a scholarship got into a fight with this other kid, B over A's girlfriend. A was dismissed from the school, which was a synonym for expelled. For whatever reason B was allowed to stay. After he received the news, A went around saying goodbye and giving hugs, then went to the top floor of a dorm during our free hours and jumped headfirst to his death. It was very tragic and very hushed by the academy. In high school there was this random day where everyone started passing out from an odor that came from one of the hallways. I forgot what subject the class was. Anyway, people were being sent to the hospital where they had set up a station for everyone to shower before they went into the ER. It was weird as hell. I tried to find it online but it's in the archives. Art teacher had a hidden camera in the girls' bathroom and one of them found it. When the cops came he fled on foot but they caught him. Edit this blew up so I'll include some more info that helps answer some questions. He had his own single-stall bathroom in the art room that he would primarily let the girls use to change and use the bathroom after their PE class. So there was no mistaking whose camera it was when it was discovered. Freshman year of high school, 1987, multiple students killed in 3 separate car versus train accidents. Never try to beat the train, kids. Kid had a brain aneurysm in class. A classmate performed CPR on him until the paramedics arrived. Was brain dead for a week before the parents let him go. It was the incident that got our school defibrillators. Some of these stories are shocking and unreal. Meanwhile, the only interesting thing to ever happen at my old school is that once a dog got inside and it was running up and down the corridors and everyone was petting it. I attended just a pretty small town school in rural Yorkshire, UK. A principal in the 70s killed a teacher and her kids. It was horrific. There's a book about it and a mini-series. My film and TV history teacher was friends with the murdered teacher and would screen the movie. No one ever talked about it and it's creepy as fuck. Last year somebody sent in a presumed bomb threat. On a day when school was out. Hallway monitor got caught sleeping with a female sophomore. Student's dad walked in mid-sex. Dozens of students and numerous teachers started feeling bad, with some getting violently ill, all within the space of a few hours. The authorities showed up and quarantined the school and took a bunch of the sick ones to the hospital. There was never a diagnosis made. They never found anything like a virus or poison or bacterial infection or anything else that could explain the rapid onset of symptoms. Eventually, like weeks later, they gave up trying to find the cause and just said it was a case of sympathetic psychosomatic symptoms manifesting throughout the school. School was never so much fun. As an added bonus, free ambulance ride. Edit my feeble old mind was a bit fuzzy on some of the details. But I did manage to dig out an old newspaper clipping my parents had saved from the event. As was the style at the time. Our football coach got suspended for putting his dick in a hot dog bun, so that was pretty cool. Not my high school but the town over. A kid on the football team claimed to have been hazed by getting a broomstick shoved up his ass during No Gay Thursday. Where anything that would normally be perceived as gay was not so. It made news all over the place. Coaches were fired, there was a huge investigation and everything. Eventually they found out the kid made it all up just to spite some of the people he accused. Oh yeah, also in my high school, one of the teachers was arrested for being a pedophile. And our superintendent resigned after it was found out that he was cheating on his wife with another member of the school board. And one of our former baseball players called Monet Davis a racial slur on Twitter. That got some news coverage too. One kid was part of the school show and there was a prop noose and for some reason he was messing with it and he hung himself. When I was in 8th grade, a 7th grade girl stabbed this guy in the foreign language area. There was a kid in my middle school with anger issues that no one knew had anger issues. He went on a rampage and smashed all of our display cases with his bare hands. Next day his fists were bandaged, and he had to hold them over his head. He walked up to me and said, "Sorry dude, I just lost control." All of the bathrooms got closed in 7th grade because a kid smeared poop on the stall of one bathroom. High school, a boy's dead body was found in a rolled up wrestling mat in the school gym. The town spilled in half over whether or not it was a freak accident or foul play. This was almost 5 years ago, and it's still unresolved. A few people's lives have been ruined from false accusations and the victim's family can't find peace or the answers they want. Editing this post got big. To answer a lot of the questions on here one. I was senior at Lowndes High at the time and I'll never forget where I was when I found out. 3rd block AP statistics. 2. I'm not a detective, I just want the family to find peace and closure. And 3. Yes, I stayed here and just graduated from VSU. It's crazy seeing how many locals commented. Teacher in the middle of class gets a call, his whole family, wife, 2 daughters, and dog all killed in a freak car accident. He returned a year later to teach but he was never the same, you could see it in his eyes. Heartbreaking. Went back to the school years later and he was still there, same great guy. Anyway, hope you're doing well teacher man. Some guy shoved a glue stick up his ass and punctured something. A few kids stole a propane tank and locked themselves in a garden shed to sniff the gas. Then one of them decided to light a cigarette, blowing the shed to smithereens. Fortunately nobody died, but some of them had to be hospitalized for a long time. Student was sleeping with a teacher. Parents sent student to another school. As soon as student turned 18, transferred back to our school. Student and teacher eventually married and have kids. This was in the early 90s and I think they are still together. Edit, it wasn't Mary Kay Letourneau. Edit 2 also wasn't President Macron. Male teacher, female student, Canadian school. I think the student was around 15 when it started and the teacher was mid to late 20s. Over Christmas break of my sophomore year in high school, our principal was pulled with over twice the legal BAC. Instead of being immediately taken to jail as he should have been, he was escorted home. Over the next week he was on almost every local news station and even got a minute or two segment on CNN. Needless to say, the faculty didn't think it was a laughing matter but the students found it hilarious and spent the remaining weeks of break having t-shirts made saying things like "I partied with Drive Siverson and lived good times." A kid in my school beat up his mom, locked her in a closet, and tried to burn their house down with her inside, and I think he got in a car chase. Small towns, Murray. A couple of years after I finished high school, a year 10 student came to school with a rifle, a list of names and a bag of Molotovs. He ended up shooting himself in the head when the bell rang and kids came out of classes. Here is the link to the coroner's findings. We had a girl who was an incident all on her own. She OD'd on Oxy. Then came back to school the next year to get held back. Then threatened to shoot up the school on the day of that year's talent show. Then vandalized the school the day before graduation with another guy. And said guy wasn't allowed to walk. She was though. High school, one of the teachers was arrested for either having sex with a kid or taking dirty pictures of the kid. Can't remember which. Big deal though since it was a super religious school. College, nothing major, but a guy got arrested for masturbating in a classroom and getting caught on camera. Found out later I went to high school with him. We had multiple. One kid, year 10, set fire to the boys' toilets because they stopped serving fish and chips on a Friday in the canteen. Another kid, year 9, set up camp on top of one of the school buildings and threatened to jump one-story building. 2 people in my year 12, got caught fucking in the staff toilet. The head of school waited outside the room till they finished. A group of year 9 set up a fight club disguised as a math study group. My male IT teacher was suspended for having a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old boy from another school. Hard to choose between senior on his way to his old town to visit his old friends for his 18th birthday died of an overdose after doing speedballs, and his friends just kept driving and didn't realize he had died. I didn't even know what a speedball was. Somebody made a fake MySpace account of one of the teachers, complete with crude photoshopping of her face onto various porn scenes, then added most of the student body. Expelled. A guy accused a male teacher of sexual assault. The teacher ended up killing himself over fear of losing his job. He had no family and loved his job and his students, so it was a pretty big blow for him. Never was proven to be a credible accusation. Edit to add, the teacher was never arrested or put on leave. The kid spread the rumor. Another student, if I recall correctly, brought it up to the teacher that it was being said. The teacher left work that day and killed himself. School did a full investigation. Nothing turned up conclusive. My brother was in the same class as the student and teacher, so I am mostly going off what the kids in that class were saying. There was a physical improbability due to the lack of locks on the doors. Kid said he was locked in. Not to mention the teacher had taught for like 20 years or so and never had anyone or say anything negative about him before or after. Was hugely beloved in the community, and the kid was a known troublemaker and all-around Rathathapan type of kid. Not saying it didn't happen, and I never like to discredit rape or sexual assault victims. I'm just going off what was the general consensus of people closer to the situation. Sad either way.